Hey guys, this is Anan, and I have some quick gameplay of the newest Tier 3 Premium, the SU-76i, which is, an interesting little tank. Certainly built for seal clubbing. It's got some really nice armor. It moves around pretty good. It's got really a nice gun with some big alpha, but pretty notoriously bad load time. You can see here with full provisions and maxed out completely, it's down to 11.7 seconds, so that's not going to necessarily farm a ton of DPM, but it hits really hard when it does hit, and it does have some really nice armor, especially if you keep it angled correctly. So it's an interesting little guy. I don't seal club very much, so I don't see it as something I'm going to drive a lot, but it definitely is a lot of fun. And I think the biggest thing of it is it really starts to equalize Tier 3 a little bit. The Ke-Ni Otsu is obviously a hugely overpowered tank, and it really can't do much against it unless it gets behind. You can see the standard Ke-Ni right there. It's really just bouncing everything right off my front, and I'm just bouncing tons and tons of shots. It will absolutely print steel walls. Because most tanks aren't going to know how to handle it. There's plenty of weak spots, so you can get through it if you're a seasoned driver, but it's definitely going to struggle a little bit. One of my favorite things actually about it is it's got really high HE pen, so even though it's a Tier 3, I am shooting almost entirely HE in this thing. Even most Tier 4s it can pen right through. I don't see much reason to use the APCR hardly at all. You don't even need it on something like a Matilda. So that's something that's really interesting and really starts to build up that DPM a little bit. Not sure what happened with that shit. But if you're firing a lot of HE and you're averaging over 200 a shot at Tier 3, that's pretty legit, and that's going to start to equalize a little bit. The one thing I found, you definitely have to be a little careful of over-angling because the side armor is very thin. So if you're doing your normal kind of angle out and wiggling around, sometimes they'll actually be able to pen the side of the tank. So that's kind of a little bit of a quirk with it too. But overall, like I said, it's pretty fun to drive. Especially if you're a big clubber, which there's nothing wrong with that, drive what you want. But it's got some nice attributes. It looks a lot like the SU-85i, which I think is kind of fun at Tier 3. It's kind of a stocky looking Tier 3, a little bit different than a lot of what you see there. So I know I'm not tossing a lot of gameplay in here because it feels weird to commentate at really low tiers, because a lot of times you just kind of drive at them and have fun with it. I don't even ever sit in the cap circle. This is just kind of where I ended up because I got those early spots, and so I'm just kind of having fun with it. And it's certainly a tank that you can carry in pretty easily. So maybe I'll come and do a little bit more commentating on the next one, but this one just kind of letting you get a feel for it. And you can see everything gives me gray in with the HE rounds. It's really pretty incredible, and I definitely think that's one of the biggest selling points to the on the tank for me, especially. Credits not so great on it, as you'll see here. This is an ace game with plenty of medals, and that's only 23,000. So Tier 3, you're not going to do a lot of credit earning. It's more just for kind of the fun of it, and taking a few minutes to relax from those high tier battles. Okay, so we'll switch over to mines here for the next one. Which is something that you typically aren't going to have a lot of luck with a Russian TD coming up this side of the map, because you just can't get the gun down. Another nice little attribute in this tank is it does have just a little bit of gun depression. I haven't seen the specs on the depression, so I don't know what it is, but it's got to be several degrees. It's more than I was expecting, way more than the SU-85i or a lot of the Tier 10 tanks too. It's got just enough, kind of like a 140 or something like that, just those couple degrees that'll help you start to be able to actually use some of the curvature of the maps instead of being completely stuck and having to overexpose a little bit. So anytime you pop up like this, and they've got enough mediums to the left in a turretless tank destroyer, I don't want to push all the way up the hill, because it'll automatically kind of give shots on the side of you, which you don't want, especially with the thinly armored sides of this. But instead, I'm going to go ahead and load the HE, and you can see here where I can actually get my gun down a little bit on this hill, which is something that you really don't see very often in these tanks. So just kind of keeping an eye. The Martyr is something that can really do a lot of damage. The hit point pool is very small on this tank, because it's that Tier 3 tank destroyer, so you have to be aware of that. If you get hit by pretty much any of with these other tank destroyers, you're going to be, if not completely dead, very, very low health. I've been one-shot with Hetzers in it for sure if you're not paying attention and get stuck in the side. So trying to get rid of that big tank, but he goes ahead and rolls off. It's tier 3, you never really know what someone's going to do. And that's probably why I don't play it very often. It's just, you know, it's a different level of play that I don't find quite as enjoyable all the time. But, you know, it can be relaxing. I certainly see the appeal to doing it, to take some, you know, take off some of the pressure of some of the higher tier tanks. So now that they're getting weak and starting to push back a little bit, I can roll forward enough to go ahead and get some of these kill shots and work the way out of here. The mistake I made here, because my awareness naturally isn't as high on these lower battles, is I didn't notice that other SU-76 kind of sneaking up behind me. I noticed him at this point, but just the dot on the screen, I didn't really know what it was. I was hoping he was shooting a teammate, but he puts a huge, huge shot on me, and so really doesn't give me a choice now but to go ahead and pay attention to him. And really, this little segment's the whole reason I use this video, because it's just kind of fun. And you can see the nice mobility. It's got a really high top speed, technically, but I find that you're really only going to hit it downhill. It doesn't have really great power to weight ratio. In fact, I find it has a really hard time climbing hills. Actually, it's going to drop down to that, you know, 12, 15 kilometers an hour range, which isn't very good for something that should be fairly maneuverable. But the traverse speed is really fantastic. I mean, you're not going to get circled by anything pretty much at any tier, so it's something you can watch for. So here I'm just being careful, and as I don't want to die, I'm trying to kind of decide between going all in with an HE round and hoping I can kill him in one shot, and or just trying to whittle him down, but unfortunately get an unlucky bounce there. And you can see, finally looking at the front of another one, where there is a lot of red, but still plenty of weak spots if you can hit it. You just have to watch those angles like I did there, and I missed and kind of got the bounce on it. So there's not a lot of tanks you're going to have to super worry about. You're going to bounce a lot of stuff. I have found, especially at tier 3, like the T-46s with the top tier 5 gun will pretty much go right through you, so you have to be careful with that. Some of the cruisers, stuff like that, the higher pen guns, if they're aiming correctly, will still get through you. But if they're not paying attention, and especially the autoloaders, you will get plenty of bounces. I think I had a T2 Light bounce me for over 60 shells in one game, which was just hilarious. So that's the kind of stuff that makes this tank a lot of fun and kind of relaxing. So hope you enjoyed this first look, and it kind of helps you decide whether you want this clubber or not. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow on the Twitch streams.